Hello and welcome. I'm DDF Racer, and in this video I'm going to be talking about Raceroom Racing Experience. Now, you may have noticed that I've been using this sim recently instead of my usual rFactor 2. Chances are you're watching this video right now because you're already subscribed to this channel. Thanks, YouTube algorithm. If not, sort your life out and do yourself a favor. Press that big red button right now. Before I go any further, I want to make it perfectly clear. I am not giving up on rFactor 2, not at all. It's one of the best sims out there in regards to physics, level of detail, AI, modability, modableness, modding, whatever the word is. Anyway, I just felt like a lot of my videos were becoming the same, running out of inspiration and becoming frustrated with a few of the niggling issues in the background. As a mostly offline sim racer, I rely on good AI, and one thing rFactor 2 is known for is good AI. However, with RF2, a lot of the available content is third-party content, not made by Studio 397. There are many good people out there doing many good things for free, making some excellent circuits and awesome cars, but it can be a bit hit and miss. Sometimes the graphics aren't optimized and I have to go tweaking the settings, or maybe the AI is off the mark, either too slow or too fast, or takes a particular corner with a horrible line, and that has to be tweaked too. Also, in my experience, rFactor 2 is a little bit more unstable than the other sims out there and can be prone to weird performance issues, glitches, and crashes. Look at it the wrong way, and it might just stop working for no apparent reason. It's nothing specific, but it ultimately means that for the time it takes to record and edit every race, it takes about the same time again to check settings, do test recordings, and so on. I can't just jump in and press record, and it can get quite tiring. As a sim racer in today's age, we're a little bit spoiled for choice. There's rFactor 2, iRacing, which I mentioned in one of my previous videos, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Project Cars 1, Project Cars 2, Forza, Gran Turismo, the entire Formula 1 series, and Raceroom Racing Experience. This one seems to go under the radar for some reason. I originally bought Raceroom back in 2014 and played it a little. Thought nothing more of it. Actually, I completely forgot it existed, to be honest with you, until someone mentioned it on my Discord channel. Hey Dan, you should go and try out this sim. To be fair, someone also said, hey Dan, the physics are so I could immediately see a divide in people's opinions. I did what any person needed to research something would do. Went to ground on YouTube for a few hours. Top of the list? Gamer muscle. Lots of quality content and immediate answers to a few questions. But what else would you expect from a fellow tea-drinking pommie like myself?
Cheers.
Yes, it does VR. Yes, it does multi-class. Yes, the AI does look pretty impressive. That's 3 boxes ticked straight away, and probably the 3 things that drew me to rFactor 2 in the first place. What was I waiting for? Time to fire at Raceroom Racing Experience for the first time in 4 years and see what it was all about. For the next few hours, I was grinning my face off. Not that you would have been able to tell underneath the ridiculously stickerdoculous riff that I wear. It's quite hard to put my finger on specifically what it was, but the sensory experience as a whole just blew me away. From the awesome sound design, the level of detail in the tracks, and the feeling of the force feedback, it just It just all came together and I found myself just getting lost in it. Just one more lap. Okay, maybe just one more lap, I promise. No, this really is the last lap now. I need to go to work in the morning. Browsing through the menus, I could see a significantly wider selection of tracks and cars than I remembered from 4 years ago as well. Sector 3 have really padded out the sim and it's quite an impressive roster to choose from. All the way from junior open wheelers to top level formula cars, tin tops of so many varieties, the World Touring Car Championship, DTMs, a huge selection of GT cars, and prototypes as well. There's a pretty wide track selection too, with lots of famous circuits from all around the globe, including quite a few club-level Swedish circuits too. A nice little nod to the local motorsport scene from the developers who, funnily enough, are Swedish. What I like most about this though is the fact that it's all official content, all tested and held to the same standard. I could load any car track combo and know that it'll work well, and also sound amazing in the process. I don't have to do any pre-testing, it's just a case of deciding what I want to do, loading the session, and not worrying about it. Now, of course, there's a flip side to this. There's no mods for this game, no third-party content. If your favorite car or circuit isn't on the roster, then tough luck. Sector 3 are continually adding new content, but it does cost money for new releases not included in the free base content. Admittedly, it's nowhere near as expensive as iRacing, but still a decent chunk even if you opt for one of the package deals on offer on the Raceroom store. Taking this into account, you'd think I'd be pretty disappointed with the lack of mod support in Raceroom, however that's not true. The game itself is hugely customizable, straight out of the box, and there's a heap of features which simply either aren't in other sims, or not to the same extent, or not all there at the same time. I mean, for example, you get a choice of qualifying format, either elimination style or timed session. You get multiple races per weekend, including reverse grids either based on individual quali results or elimination sessions. There's mandatory pit stops with pit windows. There's weight penalties with success ballast. You get multi-class racing, and you get custom championships with free choice of all of the circuits and the cars. Let me just go over that last one again. Custom championships. This is a great one, possibly one of the best things about this sim actually. Raceroom lets you create your own championships with as many races as you like, with the ability to choose from all of the available circuits and all of the available cars, provided you've purchased them, of course. Not only that, you can completely customize the rule for the championship too, from everything I just mentioned. So, for example, you want to do an IndyCar style championship with time qualifying using the Formula Raceroom US car at all of the North American circuits. Sure. How about a multi-class LMP1, LMP2, GT3 season with races lasting several hours across Spa, Silverstone, Bathurst? Easy. Maybe a replica DTM season across several rounds with knockout qualifying, reverse grids, and success ballast? No problem. Raceroom will even keep track of all the points and all the standings in the game. No need for exporting data to spreadsheets on a third-party app and alt-tabbing between the browser and the game. What makes this all even sweeter is an option in the difficulty settings called Adaptive AI. As I mentioned earlier, I'm mostly an offline sim racer, so being able to have exciting races against the AI is so important for me. With rFactor 2, I find myself constantly tweaking the difficulty, and it's hard to find a happy medium, especially when dealing with different tracks made by different people and racing different cars. Sometimes I might be several seconds faster than the AI and will need to restart the whole session, just turning the difficulty down step by step, whereas the exact same setting at a different track might put me several seconds slower. It's a lot of fine-tuning, and to be honest, it kind of takes the fun out of just being able to jump in and go racing. Now with Raceroom, you can still choose your difficulty settings, but when you set the AI to adaptive, it'll actually monitor your pace after every session and adjust the difficulty to suit based on the average of your races. So after a while, you'll kind of get a baseline AI which comes up to meet your skill level. It's like a matchmaking service, but for offline racing. It means you can just set and forget. No more feeling like you're cheating because you set the AI too low, or inevitably turning the AI down when you get frustrated because you just can't keep up. Now, coupled with the custom championship options, in my opinion, this just puts the fun back into racing, because nobody really wants to spend their valuable seat time messing around in menus and settings all the time. With regards to the actual AI themselves, they're really not bad at all. They're really consistent, but they still make the occasional mistake every now and then, so they kind of have that human aspect to them. You can really lean on them hard when going side by side too. One thing I've noticed is they don't give up easily and often fight back when you're battling for position, which is quite refreshing considering most AI would either just roll over and give you the place or pretend you're not even there and punt you straight off the road. It makes pulling off a successful overtake feel like you've actually earned it. Another neat little feature is the recently added web heads-up display. Using the Steam launch parameters, you can overlay any web page directly on top of the game, either choosing the default Sector 3 option, which is actually customizable from inside the cockpit itself, which is pretty awesome, or you can design your own overlay in a third-party program like SimHub. The best part? For VR users like me, this overlay is also visible directly in the headset, so now I can see what you guys see. Fuel usage, positional information, tire temperatures. There's going to be no more of that, "Hey Dan, you didn't see that car coming up behind you." Well, I couldn't see the overlay because now I can. If you couple this up with the ready-made pre- and post-race standing pages for things like qualifying positions and championship standings, it just makes the whole production workflow of recording these videos so much easier. Honestly, you've got no idea how much time things like this are going to save me when putting together some race footage. At the end of the day, it just means I'm actually spending more of the limited time I get to do this whole YouTube thing actually making more content, which is never a bad thing, right? And it's not just about more content, it's about depth of content too, because now I can afford to mix things up a bit more and branch out. Raceroom offers a variety of leaderboard style challenges which need some hot lap setting at some point. There's plenty of ideas for future videos right there. The online presence seems to be much more active too. I mean, I really do need to get set up with Sim Racing Series, but on the face of it, a set of course from Raceroom is where it's at if you're a non-iRacing pleb like myself wanting to race against other humans. Speaking of other humans, I really need to organise a subscriber race soon too, which is kind of another reason to pick Raceroom. It's free. Anyone can play using the base content, and what better way to get you guys involved at absolutely no cost whatsoever. If you're already a sim racer, then there's absolutely nothing to stop you guys from getting this game, and hit me up on Discord. Honestly, just please harass me. Demand a subscriber race and brag about how you're gonna leave me in the dust. To be fair, you probably will, but at least they'll get organised. This isn't to say that everything's rosy, of course. There are a few things which raise question marks about Raceroom as a sim, and it wouldn't be a fair opinion video without talking about them too. Now, there's no night racing, no wet weather, and no transitions, so whatever session settings you choose, that's kind of it for the session. Even if you're doing a 6-hour endurance marathon, the sun never gets any lower in the sky and the shadows never get any longer. It's very much fixed, and any kind of lack of rain or driving at night or just transitions, it takes a lot of the variables out of the mix. It kind of lessens the strategy a little bit. Also, going back to a previous point I made, the content is very much limited to what Sector 3 decide to put out. Even then, there's no guarantee. I mean, just last week they had to pull all of the Citroen cars from the game due to, well, presumably a licensing issue. Now, of course, there'll be new tracks and circuits in the future, but it's very much at the discretion of the developer. And this is going to sound like nitpicking too, but you can't mod in custom opponent names or liveries. Now, it's not really a big thing in the grand scheme of things, but I really enjoy creating my custom USF 2000 series in rFactor 2, painting all the liveries and setting up the AI characteristics and just generally having my DDF racer colors on the car. It was always pretty cool. What's not nitpicking though is the graphics side of the game, particularly when recording in VR. Although the vast majority of sims these days are running DirectX 11, because Raceroom is getting on a bit now and Sector 3 aren't exactly the biggest of developers, no offense guys, it's still running on DirectX 9. Now as a result of this, it is extremely CPU limited and it's not very well optimized at all. I find myself having to turn the graphics all the way down to the bare minimum settings and still struggling to maintain a decent frame rate. Now I know, running in VR whilst also running Crew Chief and also running SimHub and also recording all of it on OBS, it's going to be quite intensive, but rFactor 2 didn't struggle anywhere near as much as Raceroom, not to mention Project Cars, which is optimized beautifully and runs just so smooth. As it turns out, Raceroom just isn't making the most of my hardware, which by the way isn't exactly a budget rig, as you can see on the specifications on the screen right now. Yeah, sure, it might be a couple of years old now, but to be honest, I kind of expect a lot more performance with the equipment that I have. The end result of the lack of this optimization, like I said earlier, is just having to turn all the settings down just to get by. I've done a lot of fine tuning over the past few weeks, but here's what kind of seems to be the best balance. Sure, I could turn things up a little bit more, but the stuttering that comes across in the footage is horrible. Just trust me guys, it really is. What seems to have the biggest impact on performance is shadows and super sampling. Compared to other sims, Raceroom just doesn't look great, but unfortunately there's not much I can do really. Now when you're racing in VR, you don't really notice it too much because the resolution on the Oculus is kind of the limiting factor at the moment, but when you mirror it back to the desktops, just, you know, that's the way I record these videos for you guys. It'd just be easier to show you what I mean. Here's some standard in-game footage. Now I'm running the lowest settings and super sampling at about 125%. It's smooth, it's nice, it's solid 60 frames a second recording, but kind of leaves a lot to be desired visually. You notice how the edges of surfaces sometimes look a little bit jaggy, things in the distance don't have much detail, the shadows look very basic and simple. You can't even make out too much detail on the dashboard readouts either. Ready for the opposite end of the spectrum? This is 250% super sampling with most of the settings turned up. Now the only thing this is good for is screenshots, unfortunately. As soon as I start to move my head around, it's just nauseating. And it looks awful on the footage too, just chopping all over the place and stuttering every 2 seconds. Sure, the level of detail looks great, and now graphically it's a treat, but it's just not good. And this is with only one car on track as well. The performance only gets worse when you run with a field of 20 plus cars at the start of a race. Any more than a minute of this and I just have to physically stop because I feel ill in VR. It's not a nice sensation. At the moment, the best I can push is around 150% super sampling. That is until Sector 3 upgraded to DirectX 11 and improved the performance of Raceroom. When I'm racing in VR, lower settings and lower super sampling isn't too much of an issue. The 3D aspect of the Oculus Rift takes over and the immersion kicks in. It's just awesome. The problem really is the low quality of the desktop mirror when recording footage for you guys. Sadly, there's not really a way to accurately record and convey the experience from inside the headset onto a flat screen. Honestly, I find that to be one of the most frustrating things about recording in VR. You just can't convey the experience from inside the Oculus Rift, unfortunately. Anyway, I should probably start wrapping this video up. For those of you who've been with the channel for a while and stay for the rFactor 2 content, just don't panic. I'm not dropping rFactor 2. To be honest with you though, I never really set out to be an rFactor 2 only channel in the first place, and if you dig back far enough, you'll see my first uploads are from Project Cars and Dirt Rally. It just feels like most of you who are subscribed have come on board since I started doing rFactor 2, and of course I'm extremely grateful for that, so it's great to have you here. I'm just having an absolute blast doing something different for the moment. Although Raceroom does have some flaws, it's ticking all the boxes for what actually puts a smile on my face right now. At the end of the day, it's all about enjoying the racing. Right, I think that's enough rambling for now. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts too. Do you agree or disagree with my points? Have I missed a trick with some settings somewhere and any way I can get more performance out my rig? Are you guys missing rFactor 2? Are you not really a fan of the Raceroom videos? Positive or negative, let me know in the comments guys. Whatever you do, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and if you want to see Raceroom in action then definitely subscribe and press that notification button, because I can see myself uploading a lot of Raceroom videos in the future. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.